Welcome to Life Planning 101, brought to you by Kennedy Financial Services of Eastland. Tune in every Monday morning at 8:30 on KATX and again on Saturday morning at 9 a.m. on KATX and KWBY as Angela Robinson joins Stace Gaddy to share important financial information to help you live life on purpose, insurance, investments, estate and tax planning, and much more. All covered now on Life Planning 101.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome into our programming, Life Planning 101. I'm Stace Gaddy. Our expert, of course, Angela Robinson from Kennedy Financial Services. And good morning to you.
Good morning, Stace, and happy to be here on the show this morning. Of course, I'm still in mourning about my Cowboys, but who isn't in Central Texas this week? I know after losing a running back, too, it's just, and Sean Lee going out, and oh my goodness.
Injuries,
yes. So anyway, but on to a happier topic for today. Yes. I am very happy to be here this morning. Have a great topic to talk about. And it's kind of like the weather. Sometimes we need a good storm to clean everything up. And I consider that's kind of what today's topic is going to be about when you talk about retirement. And, you know, we, and I say we, now you realize I'm much younger. I don't have near as many gray hairs. But so,
as whom?
Yeah, as my dad. And as my brother even. Okay. So, but, you know, we've been working with people for over 26 years. And that has taught us a lot. We always tell people, you know, we haven't lived your life, but we've lived your life through the experiences of our clients. Mm-hmm. Because we have experienced so many different things. And we continue to experience so many different things. And my dad, he used to teach seminars through different colleges. He was up in Wichita Falls and Abilene, and at Hardin-Simmons ACU and McMurray, all three of those universities, and at Tarleton. And he used to think he could teach everybody everything you need to know about retirement. And he said, you know, and he'll even tell you today the same thing. I know you can't. Mm-hmm. There's just no possible way, because if we're still learning after 26 years in business and we're diligent about our studying, I can't tell you how much we read every week, how many conferences that we go to, continue our education. Every one of us is working on another piece of education in the office. And that's a lot, you know. So, you know, we've had a lot of experiences with those clients, and we've been blessed to be able to do that. We've shared a lot of laughs. We've shared a lot of tears. We've shared a lot of excitement. And, you know, we've been through a lot of fear with people. And people always ask me, you know, when we're starting to work together, said, well, what's the best piece of advice that you can give us? What's the number one piece of advice you can give us through all these experiences? And the funny thing is, it has nothing to do with money. Absolutely nothing. Money's just the tool. You know, now, granted, our business is built on making people money, right?
It's a paradox.
Yeah, it is, because, you know, in retirement, that's the big thing, right? Do I have all my eggs where they need to be able to provide me enough income for retirement? Do I have everything in place? Am I going to have any pitfalls that come down the road and not let me fulfill my retirement, right? And in today's world, that's a really scary situation. You know, not only are we having all these economic issues and the market conditions are different, and the world itself is a different place to live, but you add to that most people today are spending more years in retirement than they did working.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, and if you think about that, that's really crazy, but it's true, you know. So, you know, that is a big issue, and I don't want to take away from that value, but it's kind of like if you're on a plane and that flight attendant tells you, you know, if the plane starts to go down and the oxygen masks drop, are you supposed to assist the child sitting next to you, or are you supposed to take care of yourself first?
Supposed to take care of yourself first.
Right.
So that you can assist the child.
That's right. So, you know, last week we talked about being able to take it with you.
Yes.
Money's one of those things you can't take with you. So you have to take care of yourself before you can take care of your money. And so the number one piece of advice that I would give any retiree, and we all agree on this, and I bet if you ask most people across the industry, they would agree on this, is to simply have something to retire to. You know, I tell you what, we've had some experiences, and my gut just cringes because I know people get real excited about retirement. I don't want to take away anybody's steam if you're listening to the show and you're thinking about retirement here in the near future. Right, but my gut just clenches when someone says, I'm burnt out. I can't work anymore. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm retiring. Whew. I sit there and I think, okay, well, that's not necessarily a death sentence. But and because some people actually who are encountered with that situation have so much weight on their shoulders, and they're really living under just this little cave, they feel like, that they actually blossom when they get to retirement because that burden's lifted. But that's really an exception for most people. Often, when someone retires without a plan, when they don't have something to retire to and they don't have any goals, it really does translate to a death sentence. And I'm sure you've heard people say, you know, you're either moving forward or you're dying, right? Mm-hmm. And that's very true in this situation. So what we're going to do in the show today is we're going to come back and I'm going to first of all share you a story about a 105-year-old lady that I learned about last week, which is a great story. And then I'm going to go ahead and give you a couple ideas on having something to retire to help you be able to brainstorm and not just have it be about the money, but have retirement be about fulfillment.
Very good. Angela Robinson, you're listening to Life Planning 101. Keep it right here. Welcome back in, everyone, to Life Planning 101. Angela Robinson is our expert guest. I'm Stace Gaddy. Good morning again, Angela.
Good morning, Stace, again. And thanks again for having and hosting the show with us, as always.
Love this segment. I love it every Monday morning at 8:30, and then again on Saturdays.
Yes.
Here and also on KWBY.
That's
wonderful.
Right. That's right. Yep. And we're excited to be able to bring it out to the community because, you know, so much of what we do is people say, what do you do? Kennedy Financial Services. What is that? You know, and there is a lot. We encompass so much. And really today we're talking about the most important thing in retirement, and it has nothing to do with money. So, you know, Kennedy Financial Services is talking nothing to do with money. But hey, I do want to remind people we are going to have a trivia at the end of the show. So make sure you're listening because the winner is going to get from Comet Cleaners here in Eastland 3 pairs of pants, either dry cleaned or starched. And Comet Cleaners, thank you so much for your sponsorship for our show. And then also, you know, I know you're going to have questions after the show because I'm actually going to give you I'm going to tell you about some worksheets that you can use for this segment, and you'll have to email us to get those worksheets. Okay. So the best question of the show is going to get a dozen of those rich, warm, creamy donuts again. So don't miss that part of it. And our email, of course, is lifeplanning@kennedy-financial.com. So back to this segment. You're either growing or you're dying. And too many people, they retire, they stop growing, whether it's physically, mentally, emotionally, you know, whatever it is, and that's due to their loss of a social setting. You don't realize when you quit working what you all lose. You lose the social setting. You don't have the people that you go to work with every day. So, you know, you may notice after about a month, you're like, oh, wow, it's weird being out in the public if you ever go into a social place again. Physically, because you aren't having all the activity that you normally were doing before and after work and those types of things. And then just focus because you don't have a schedule anymore. I see so many people lose their focus in retirement and they don't even know where to start. So my intent today is to get you working so you can continue growing until your very last day here on Earth.
Sounds great.
Yes.
Maybe to 105.
That's right. So I did. I promised a story about a 105-year-old lady. I have to share this. We did a dinner for our clients in Abilene last week. And one of our clients came up to me, and she's in her 60s. And she came up and she said, well, I'm going to have to leave a little early because I have to go pick up my friend who is at a party tonight. And she is 105 years old. And she doesn't like to drive at night. I said, okay, yeah. And I said, well, and she said, well, and do you want to know how I met my friend? I said, yes, I do. She said, we work out together.
Oh, man.
105 years old. I said, well, what type of working out do you do? We lift weights. We do cardio. I thought, oh, my Lord.
And that's the future.
It is. It is. So, all of us say we're too old to do that. I'm going to call BS on everybody. Yeah. We can all get out and do something, and that's just proof in the pudding. And I'm going to do something, and I know this is it may seem a little crazy. And in the last segment of the show, I want to share some stuff that came from International Foundation of Retirement Education. I'm what's called a certified retirement counselor.
Okay.
And that's more than about money. That's actually helping people get prepared and be able to retire successfully. And that means mentally, physically, and with their money and without their money, right? So we're going to get to some little worksheets and some engagement activities, but I want to share something with you that's been very impactful for me and every one of our clients that we've ever done this with. They've loved it. And I know it's going to sound a little ironic since we're talking about living, but one of the best things that I ever was told to do was to write my own obituary. Yes, I said that, and you heard that right.
I heard it.
Okay, write your own obituary, okay? Dr. John Rhodes is a good friend of mine. He's also been a business coach of ours, and he's the one that actually got me to do this. And he's come as a guest speaker to several of our events because we just love to have him. He talks about the balance of life, and we love that. And I know, we're trying to prevent an early death here, so, like I say, it's a little ironic, but it's very enlightening. And the reason it is, and I'll just kind of give you an insert that I had happen last week. We had our retreat with our office, and my dad was sitting there talking, and he said, what happened in Sunday school, he said, the preacher was saying, are you ready? If the world were to end, are you ready today? And I think a lot of us as Christians would say, yeah, I'm ready. And then he said, but are you prepared? So what is that?
Two different things,
yes, it is. What does that mean? Okay. And my dad said, well, I got to thinking, right? And I'm not prepared. I still want to teach my grandchildren some things. I still want to be able to do a few things that I haven't got to do with my legacy that's important to me. I want to fulfill a few things in life. And I think we all have those little things. If we were just to stop, I'd encourage you, and I know it's weird, but I'd encourage you to sit down and try to write out your obituary. And what I mean by that is if someone else was writing about your life, what would you want them to write about? What would you want them to say about you? And it may be more spiritually. It may be other things that you have in there that's important to you, and things will come out of that. And, one thing I always think about is don't you find it amusing, our culture, we have this little thing when we walk up and we see somebody, we say, hi, how are you? Do we ever really listen to what the other person says, or is it just a canned introduction, right? So what does it really mean? And I heard one time someone told me, they said, well, I'm above ground today. It's a good day for me. So
a good one.
And I thought, that is a good one, because we don't sit there and we don't say how we're really feeling about something. And I think in retirement, that gets more and more enlightening, is to be able to be excited to have something to be able to live for, not just to be living, not just to be walking around and doing something, but you have your retirement years, and sometimes, like I said, you have more years in retirement than you did working, and God gave each of us a purpose on this earth. And have you fulfilled that purpose? Have you been able to do what it is that he wants you to do? And it doesn't always mean that it has to be an act of Christ. It has to be with your church, or it has to be, in your community, or giving back. There may be other things that he wants you to do. We've had several clients that have gone back and they've taught. For the first time in their life. They've gone back and they've actually volunteered rather than even getting paid, but they volunteered using their skills that they had during their work years, but that way they have flexibility, and they've done that in their community. We've even had some that have actually gone back to work for the same companies they worked for before, but they just did contract labor, because what they were tired of is they were tired of their schedule. They were tired of not being able to travel and do the things they want to do before they felt like they were going to get too old to be able to do those things. But they still loved doing what they did, and they felt that was a fulfillment in life, just like I do. I suspect that I will be working till the day I die.
I do too.
Yeah, because what I do is not anything, it's not a job to me. This isn't a job to me. It is a fulfillment of what God wants me to do here. And that puts a big place in my heart. So when we come back from the break, we're going to talk about a worksheet entitled Approaches to Retirement Happiness. And I think this is really good on having something to retire to. And you're not going to want to miss our trivia either. So make sure you pay close attention.
Keep it right here. One more segment left in this morning's Life Planning 101. Welcome back in, folks, to our final segment this morning of Life Planning 101. I'm Stace Gaddy. So glad to have you along with us. Angela Robinson talking about having something to retire to this morning.
That's right. Meaning that we're either growing or we're dying, right? And we got to be able to keep growing in retirement, especially when for some of us, that's 30 or 40 years. And, we always have a saying in our office, and all of our clients will tell you about it. Today's the first day of the rest of your life. How long is that going to be?
Only the Lord knows.
Only the Lord knows. That's right. And so what are you going to do with the rest of it? And a lot of people say, well, I'm just going to golf in retirement. Well, I'm sorry. I bet you in 5 or 10 years, you're going to come back in and you're on medication because you're depressed.
I'd say 5 or 6 months.
For some people, that's right, Stace.
Oh, I got to do something else.
That's exactly right. And as I promised throughout the show, I was talking about this really cool tool that we have used, and it came from the International Foundation of Retirement Education, and it's a worksheet. And by the way, we have several of these for people that are having a problem finding that something to retire to. This isn't the only one, but it's a really good one, and I like using it a lot. And it's called the Approaches to Retirement Happiness.
Okay.
And so if you have the luxury of having a pen and a piece of paper, you know me well on our show, then
she gives homework.
I give a lot of homework. And if not, of course, our show is on KATXradio.com and KWBYradio.com. All of our shows are archived, and there is an article that corresponds with each show that you can go back and you can utilize. So I'd encourage you to do that. But I want you to think about there's 3 definitions I'm going to give you, okay? And these are approaches to retirement happiness. One is pleasure. I think we can all figure that one out, right? It's activities that relate to relaxation, leisure, travel, entertainment, simple pleasures, enjoyments, things that bring positive emotions, okay? I once heard a saying, and I love it. It's you spend your money on two things in life. And that's other people and experiences. So I call pleasure those experiences, those things that, remember. In fact, the Baptist church here in town, they have a sign up right now. And I was reading it as I drove by this morning. And it was talking about with every ending joy, there is a piece of happiness that remains, or something. That I probably didn't get that just right. Okay, but I thought that's really good, because that's an experience that leaves a memorable thing that you always have to be able to carry with you, and those are those pleasures, right? Mm-hmm. Then we have engagement. Engagement is challenging activities that are going to be equal to or higher than the skills that you had while you were working, that bring you a sense of engagement, that engage you. Okay, for me, that's Sudoku. I can never get this right. Sudoku? Sudoku. Okay. That's
the puzzles.
Yeah, the puzzles. Man, those things wear me out, because I stay up all night thinking about numbers when I do it. But I love them. They engage me. They really make my mind work, and we all need that. And Stace, you were just telling me in the break there about your granddad. He was always wanting to learn something on your iPhones or this or that.
Everything that came out.
Yeah, and he was in his 90s. And so I think we all need that sense of curiosity, just like a child. We've got to find something that's going to engage us and keep our mind working. And then the third thing is meaning. And like pleasure, I'm sure you can figure this one out, but it's activities that relate to some personal achievement, whether it be charitable, teaching, volunteer, something that contributes to a larger than myself point of view. And it brings you a sense of meaning and purpose, right? Okay. So those are really, really important. And what I want you to think about is, of each of those 3 approaches, what are you doing most right now? Pleasure, engagement, or meaning? And what are you doing least right now? Okay, we all have some that we lean on, and unfortunately, it's kind of like that life balance thing. We all need to balance these out, but we don't. We don't. We do one typically more than the other. There's that old saying, "Work hard, play hard," right? But in retirement, often it's just play hard. There is no work hard.
And before retirement, it's often just work hard.
That's right. And I think it's the Chinese that said Americans are crazy. They spend their whole life spending their health and stressing to be able to retire to this happiness that during retirement they spend the whole time just trying to recover because they're unhealthy. So,
Exactly.
and that's so true. We have no balance in our culture. It's really a sad thing, And I actually had a client walk up to me at the dinner this last Thursday, and she reminded me, and she's told me this before, but her dad got sick when he was like 62 years old, and they had retired about 60, but they had worked and stressed so hard, he got sick and he passed pretty quickly. And then her mom developed dementia right after that. And she said, my husband and I refuse to work ourselves into the ground like that. We don't plan on quitting working because we both love what we do, but we're going to balance this. We're going to go travel. We're going to do things that we want to be able to do. We're going to enjoy the pleasure while we're working. So I think that's just as important as having something to retire to, is remembering that balance while you still are working, right? But when you do retire, you kind of got to work backwards. You got to have something that engages you, and you got to have something that provides you some sort of meaning. So here's your homework for today. All right. All right. Like I said, you're going to need a pen and a piece of paper, and this is pretty easy. All right. You're going to draw a line down the middle of the page, and you're going to put on the left pre-retirement at the top, and then on the right you're going to put post-retirement. Pretty easy. And then you're going to write, and I'd make room to have like 3 segments on the page: pleasure, engagement, and meaning. And you're going to write down 3 pre-retirement activities that you did that fulfill those 3 things: pleasure, engagement, and meaning. And then write down 3 post-retirement things. And if those are missing, that's what we need to work on. That's the retirement too, okay? That's what we've got to figure out, and I know it seems like a little simple exercise, but it actually helps you visualize and find direction, because, our business, what we consider ourselves really good at is we consider, lives like a piece of Swiss cheese, all right?
Okay.
And we want to help you become Americans. So we're going to fill in all those holes.
Fill the holes.
Yeah, we're going to fill the holes, okay? So when it comes to having something to retire to, you've got these holes, and we're going to figure out what those holes are by this little exercise. Is it in the pleasure? Is it in the engagement? Is it in the meaning of having something that's there? And I would encourage you, like I mentioned in the second segment today, write that obituary, because that's going to help you figure out what that engagement and that meaning is. And I know that's counterintuitive, but it's really, really important. So here's our trivia for today. How old was the lady that is exercising with our client, doing weightlifting and cardio, life planning at Kennedy-financial.com. Comet Cleaners gave us 3 pairs of pants, dry cleaned or starch here in Eastland. Thank you, Comet, for that.
Yes.
And again, my name is Angela Robinson with Kennedy Financial Services. Thank you for joining Life Planning 101 this morning.
Another fantastic segment. Thank you, Angela Robinson, and everyone at Kennedy Financial Services. Folks, thank you for joining us. Be sure and come back next time for more Life Planning 101.
Thank you for joining us for Life Planning 101, brought to you by Kennedy Financial Services of Eastland. Tune in every Monday morning at 8:30 on KATX, and again on Saturday morning at 9 o'clock on KATX and KWBY for more Life Planning 101.
Securities and investment advisory services offered through VSR Financial Services Incorporated, a registered investment advisor and member of FINRA SIPC. Kennedy Financial Services is not owned or controlled by VSR Financial Services Incorporated.